Oh, welcome back. Moon Griffon Show on the road again in beautiful Monroe, Louisiana, where we started our broadcast in, I want to say a career. I guess it's been a career, 22 years ago, and with KMLB 540 AM, Bob Holliday, and we do appreciate all the help Bob got me through the many, many years, and, of course, all of our great affiliates. Here at J&J Exterminator, of course, you can find J&J around the great state of Louisiana. They cover from every inch of the state of Louisiana. He is Louisiana's Exterminator. They opened an office in northeast Louisiana. They've been here about 2 years. And I'm going to give you a number, 450-6414. Northeast Louisiana, all of northeast Louisiana. 318-450-6414. And I want people to know this company's been around over 60 years. It may be a new company in this area, but it's not new. These folks have been around doing business for over 60 years, and they're going to just continue to serve great service right here in northeast Louisiana. All right, let's jump gears. I've been looking for him. I found him. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. How you doing, sir?
Good, my friend. How are you?
Billy, doing really well. Hope everything's going good. I had a caller the other day said, have y'all heard from Nungesser? I hadn't seen Nungesser. I said, well, I've been in contact with him very little. I said, but he's like everybody else that wins one of these statewide positions. He probably gets in there and goes, okay, now let me see what this whole thing is about. And I'm sure that's what you've been doing like the rest of them, sorting everything out.
Well, we rolling up our sleeves and seeing where we can cut and save money without hurting the tourism dollars we're bringing in, and looking at all the assets we have and seeing what we don't need and get rid of it and try to do more with less as everybody's gonna look at around the state.
Now, by the way, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser on the line with me. Billy, a big question on that, I guess, is how are y'all funded? Because that always matters. I mean, are y'all funded by direct tourism dollars, the state general fund? Talk a little bit about that, because I know that affects budgets big time.
We have a small dedication of a sales tax, a very small part that funds the tourism. Historically, we've generated a lot of money through our state parks, rental out in museums and things like that. Unfortunately, the past governor had swept a lot of that money, actually $54 million from state parks in the last several years that we generated that we normally use for improvements and fixing the state parks. We had to use most of that money for operations because of the sweep of the money. So that's why we're on a mission to get these state parks back in top shape that have had struggled with the budget cuts over the last several years to the tourism budget. So the cuts this year are just compounded by cuts that tourism have taken every year over the last several years.
Yeah. And of course, you're referring to the Governor General, but, the legislature had a lot to do with it, too, because Billy, I promise you, and I know you didn't hear me every day, but you heard me enough, we were fighting the general administration and the legislature at the time, and I don't want you to get cross because I know you need to work with them, but we were fighting them every year not to do what they were doing. And look at the results. Had they just listened to the dumb guy on the radio, they would have never did these sweeps, because these are the type of things we were saying. Well, something's going wrong. When you go to your kid's savings account to help pay your bills, you got a mistake going on, and you better fix it, and we never did.
Yeah, absolutely right. And we're all, look, I was a parish president. We're all I should have been on the rooftop screaming as well. So I take some of the blame too, but you're absolutely right. We've got holes in every area of the state where we've swept money, and now we're at the bottom of the barrel.
One of the things that I want to talk about it, and I don't know how you do it because of money, but we'll talk about it anyway, because you came on air, you made some promises. You wanted to promote everything right here and what's best about all over Louisiana, not just New Orleans. Everybody kind of knows New Orleans. First of all, I know it's going to be a little difficult money-wise, but what do you do to help promote all these little areas? Because I'm sure you're getting contacted by a lot of people saying, hey, look over here in Natchitoches, look in Winfield, look in wherever, just any parts of the state. So how do you deal with that, number one, and what are you doing to head toward that direction? Because I know that was your goal.
Well, today I'm in Ville Platte, and we're going to dedicate the Zydeco Cajun Prairie Byways. And what that is, it gets people off the interstates to take these back roads and visit some of the smaller towns and see the unique things they have to offer. So I'm on my way there now to dedicate and put these road signs up. And that's a start. And we're doing that all over the state. But we know New Orleans is where the majority of the conventions are. What we've got to do is have the state have a presence there at the convention center and not just be handing out brochures for restaurants in New Orleans, but to be pushing people around the whole state. We also need to have a statewide fishing program where people come fish Louisiana, and we open up the doors to every lake stream and every place we have for fishing. The same thing with the horse industry. Mississippi and Texas have a circuit where they go all over the state doing these horse shows. We rely on individual parishes to do that. We need to have a state plan to bring people all around the state. We have these beautiful arenas, and we don't use them as much as we could to bring tourists in to these smaller communities.
You know, Billy Nungesser, my special guest. Of course, Billy is now Lieutenant Governor. He won a pretty good landslide victory last fall. Billy, how difficult will it be? Because when you think of tourism now, and I like the slogan of being a tourist in your own state, because I tell people I'm a state traveler. I'm not a world traveler. So I like moving around the state. I do that because of my show. But how do you attract people from outside the state if you really don't have money to get up and run ads and things of that nature? There's got to be ways to do it. I don't know if you got to that point yet, but we definitely want to bring people in from other states to come in and enjoy the good life in Louisiana.
Right. Because of the budget cuts over the years, we've had to pull back in targeting markets. You know, like we've got an event planned in Canada because they love the French, the Zydeco. Or as we get a lot of Canadian visitors down, New Orleans is working on an international flight from London to New Orleans. Well, we want to partner with them and agree to promote in London with British Airways if we can put that together to where we're pulling people on that direct flight to get them to Louisiana. We're going to have to make sure we get the most bang for our buck, and we target those areas where we have the low-hanging fruit to get people to come to Louisiana and make sure we're leveraging those tourism dollars to get the most people we can to come to the state.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I guess, and by the way, Billy, so there's no way in your department, y'all don't have a self-generating fund except a little bit on a sales tax then, so there's really no way to generate any extra funds without the legislature and the governor appointing more money to your office. Is that correct?
Let me tell you, I come from private business, and I hate ever going to the taxpayers for more money. I hired Robert Barham, who was the head of wildlife and fishery. He just took over as head of state parks. And he's going around every state park, and we're looking at private-public partnerships to generate more money, even the possibility of naming rights. You know, if one of these camper companies wants to adopt a park, people in there are staying in campers. It's a good business move for them, and it'll help us with some of the cost to operate in those parks. We're going to look at some of the assets under the museum system that we've sat on for years that have no real benefit. We own a building in the middle of the French Quarter, and we store art in it. We don't need to own a building in the middle of the French Quarter that could be condos and bring in millions to the state. We've got to make sure we generate any revenues we can, not on the back of the taxpayers, and return that investment in tourism dollars. And that's what we're aggressively looking at.
Let me ask a question. Have you, and I know you had to look at budgets, and you may not have this number, and if you don't, it's not a big deal, but what was the budget? What is the budget now? How much of a difference than what it was 8 years ago versus today? Or have you had any time to look at something like that?
In the last 8 years, my office had gone from 64 people to 7.
Wow.
$60-something million over the last 8 years. And part of that is not anybody in particular problem, but we've changed lieutenant governors 3 times before they really got their hands around increasing revenues and really putting a long-term plan together. They were out of office or moved to a different office. You know, we went from Mitch to Scott Angel, then he went back, and then Jay got in there. So we've really got to have a short and long-term plan to grow tourism, generate as many dollars as we can internally, but also make the legislators, realize 38-1 return on investment, $800 million that we didn't pay in taxes last year. So those are the numbers that we have to realize. As we grow tourism, it takes a little bit of that tax burden off our back.
Yeah, and you kind of answered the question I had was, what kind of impact is tourism having anyway, despite all that, if it's already creating something and you're rating the funds? And like I said, I was hollering from the top of my lungs that what they were doing is wrong, and they all looked at me like the crazy guy on the radio. The crazy guy on the radio was right.
Absolutely right. Look, in Colorado one year they had a budget crush. They cut out the tourism dollars. And that was many, many years ago, and they still have not recovered. And they realized they made a big mistake when they cut the tourism dollars when they had budget problems. So it's very difficult for me to walk to that table and ask them not to cut my budget when you're looking at seniors, kids in wheelchairs, and all the people in Baton Rouge today fighting for those dollars that they need to take care of those children. It's very difficult to go there and defend a tourism budget, but it's something we need to fund.
Yeah. Billy Nungesser, thank you, sir. We'll do it again another time. God bless. Wish you the best.
Thank you. God bless you.
All right. When we get back, more J&J Exterminator, Moon Griffon Show on the road again. Of course, Northeast Louisiana Division now, folks. They could service you 60 years in the business. You want the best. J&J is the best. Take a break. Be right back. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show.